Trends in educational technology. Within this presentation, I'm going to be speaking about a trend that's currently popular within education. The discussion points for this presentation of trends in educational technology start out with what the trend of games for learning really is, what it represents, and I'll include one specific game I'll review. While this trend is great for students, there are pros and cons. I'll discuss how I use games for learning within my classroom, and I'll cover features of this tool that I find incredibly useful as an educator. Games for learning is a current trend in EdTech. According to the ISTE article referenced in my blog post, the practice of using games to motivate student learning is becoming increasingly integrated across subjects and within different parts of the curriculum. Students are able to use these games to enhance their learning on a specific subject. The tool that I want to discuss is Prodigy. Prodigy is often something that I use within my classroom. I find that my students are more willing to ask for help with problems than if they were just completing skills on IXL. Prodigy began as a learning tool for math, but it has recently added an ELA option to the game. The image shown represents what the teacher dashboard of Prodigy looks like. Teachers are able to evaluate, assess, and engage students throughout gameplay. There are many pros to Prodigy. Prodigy is extremely engaging for students. My students are typically on task when working on Prodigy. As an educator, Prodigy makes differentiating for my students easy. I can use data from their previous work to assign different standards for them based on their skill set. The placement test is an absolute pro for me as a special education teacher. Placement tests are automatically assigned at the beginning of the school year and in January. I'm able to see how my students have been progressing throughout the year and what they still may need to work on. There is also an option for me to assign problems based on the IRA test. I love this as it helps my students prepare for the state test. Prodigy has the ability of text-to-speech on problems. This is beneficial for my students as many of them have a reading disability. I am also able to assign problems based on the standards we are working on for our math curriculum. Since my kids love Prodigy, they are frequently working on problems that we are going over in class. Prodigy is also free for educators to create an account. While there are pros to Prodigy, there are also cons to it. As I watch my students play, I noticed how repetitive some of the gameplay is. They travel to different areas of the map, find an opponent, and then use strategies to fight their opponents that stay the same every battle. While Prodigy is free, there is an option for a premium account. After battles, students can upgrade their pets or wizard, and some of these upgrades require the premium account. Another con is that there is no work shown if an answer is incorrect. Prodigy just tells them the correct answer and then moves on to the next portion of the battle. This means that if a student is struggling, they would be unsure of how to solve a problem. There is also a home and school option in Prodigy. The home option has certain quests and pets where the parents would need to be the ones with the premium account. The home option also has many more areas of the map unlocked that the school one does not have. As I mentioned before, Prodigy is for both math and ELA. I noticed that after a subject has been chosen and a student is already logged in, they are unable to switch to the other subject. Prodigy is something that I use in my classroom. As a special education teacher, I use a first, next, then model with my students, and Prodigy is often listed as an option under my then activities. My students are able to meet up with one another through the app. I notice that my students will often ask me for help more than with other apps, since getting an answer correct leads to a reward for them. These first two pictures represent my students working at my macaroni table. The students are seen helping each other with problems as well as working independently. For my students, this really helps with their social skills. These next two pictures represent students working independently. After map testing this week, my students had the option to play Prodigy. These next set of photos show my students on Prodigy during their chosen then activity during my class. This photo shows my students logging on and starting their character customization with Prodigy. Students are able to choose the look of their character and their character's name. The names are often mythical or magical type names since the students are playing as wizards. And this final image shows an example of some dialogue before a student competes in a battle. As an educator, I find many of the features Prodigy has is beneficial. There is an assignment feature in which I'm able to assign specific standards to my students. This image shows what my dashboard looks like when I have an assignment open for students. I am able to see their progress through the data shown. This calendar image shows when the assignments were set up, whether it's an assignment or an assessment, and how long I have given them for each. There are also rewards for students given in the game. Students are able to earn different pets and outfits based on how many questions they answer. The reports feature is incredibly helpful for me as a teacher. As this image shows, I can easily identify how my students are doing with specific topics. I can see which students are at or above grade level, below grade level, or well below grade level. This graph also shows which grade level my students are at, so I know what their skill set is and how I can help them improve. This image represents the reports that I can see. I can see student progress, comprehension of a topic, their usage in weekly activity, their placement test data, any assignments I have, and topic and curriculum coverage. Placement tests are great for me as a special education teacher. I'm able to see where my students are at based on those placement tests. To conclude with the presentation on trends in EdTech, I wanted to point out how games for learning can be beneficial for students. Nowadays, kids are often playing video games at home for their own enjoyment. With games for learning and education, my students are often looking forward to playing games during class. I realize that they want to play Prodigy because they think it's fun. They don't even realize that they are working on academic skills in a fun way. Games for learning can also improve students' social skills. While playing games, they can interact with their peers in a safe environment where they feel comfortable.